gives effect to our government's transport priorities as outlined in the government policy statement on land transport. These are economic growth and productivity, increased maintenance and resilience, safety and value for money. Getting transport back to basics is one of the key reasons why Kiwis voted for this government. They were sick of the potholes plaguing our roads. They were fed up with the phantom projects that cost a fortune but never got off the ground. And they were tired of the speed bumps, planter boxes and cycleways that made going about their day-to-day lives all the more difficult. When this government was elected, we were clear that we needed to get transport back on track and ensure that we were delivering the infrastructure that Kiwis wanted and needed. And today, this $32.9 billion National Land Transport Plan gives effect to our plan. The roads of national significance are back. After being abruptly cancelled by the previous government, this NLTP reprioritises the Roads of National Significance program to ensure Kiwis can get where they need to go more quickly and safely. Public transport gets a significant boost with a record $6.4 billion to be invested in public transport services and infrastructures to increase travel times and deliver the reliable public transport services that are needed. There's significant investment in public transport underway, including the City Rail Link, Eastern Busway, Lower North Island Rail integrated mobility projects, and this GPS will ensure that we have reliable services running on public transport. Potholes are being repaired. In 2023, there were 62,000 potholes peppering the state highway network alone. This NLTP confirms our record $5.5 billion investment to prevent these potholes from being formed in the first place by increasing investment in resealing, rehabilitation and drainage works on our state highways. And there's significant investment in resilience, the North Island weather event recovery work, as well as a number of roads on local roads and state highways, which will be replaced, including Second Ashburton Bridge and Pages Road Bridge in Christchurch, which is a local roading project. As I announced last week, there is also significant work underway to ensure the revenue sufficiency required into the future. I announced the revenue action plan the government has, including work around tolling, the increase in Fed and Ruck, which will take place from the 1st of January 2027. We'll also be considering continuing work around build, own, operate, transfer models and PPPs, and also the work around moving all vehicles to road user charges. This NLTP will enable Kiwis to get where they want to go quickly and safely, spending less time in their cars, more time doing what they love. It's a great document, and I thank the NZTA board for confirming it. Now pass over to Nicole Rosie.
Kia ora koutou, good afternoon everyone. It is actually an honour and a privilege to be here today alongside the Minister to announce the National Land Transport Program on behalf of the NZTA board and our board chair Simon Bridges, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. Thanks to all of you that have contributed to this 3-year program finalisation, including local government, iwi mana whenua and many central government agencies. The National Land Transport Program is a vital instrument for making sure the New Zealand Transport Agency meets its statutory obligations, whilst also delivering on the government's clear expectations as outlined by the Minister. It's our commitment to an improved transport system that gets people and freight to where they need to go quickly and safely. As you've heard from the Minister today, our new National Land Transport Program represents a significant investment in New Zealand's land transport system. It is our biggest investment yet in dollar terms and follows the very clear direction we have been given to deliver an improved transport network that boosts economic growth and productivity, while also improving maintenance, building greater resilience and safety into the network and delivering value for money for every dollar spent. The program we've laid out will result in a stronger, productive and more resilient land transport network. The ambitious roads of national significance and roads of regional significance that the Minister has outlined for you will see the building of strategic corridors that will connect new housing areas for population growth and provide key links to export markets. They'll also improve safety, help get goods to markets more efficiently and effectively, and will build greater resilience into the roading network. Our investment in public transport, focused on building important connections in our main urban areas, will support economic growth by reducing congestion and travel times. The next 3 years will see improvements to public transport with funding allocated to help provide better services and more travel choices for commuters. There's been a lot of demand on funding via the National Land Transport Program, and we only have a limited pot of money available. There is always more bids from councils and others for funding than there will be available funding. For the 24 to 27 National Land Transport Program, there was $29.7 billion of bids versus a total forecast income for the fund of $23.6 billion. What you will see published in the 24-27 document is a snapshot in time. The program of activities and projects we will continue to have will evolve throughout the next 3 years. We have a big program of work ahead of us, and to echo the Minister, we know it will be challenging to deliver everything within the confines of our existing funding. Costs for delivering transport programs continue to rise, and there is a shortage of skilled staff. And there has also been ongoing supply chain issues. These all test our ability to meet our commitments, given our limited financial constraints, but we are very much up for this program. Thought has been given to different ways of funding the land transport investment, as outlined by the Minister, and changes are being signalled that will give us much more certainty around investment and funding now and into the future. I look forward to New Zealand Transport Agency, in conjunction with its partners, successfully delivering this National Land Transport Program. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa, and I would like to open it up for questions. Thank you.
Can you explain some of the trade-offs that have been made here, prioritising car drivers as opposed to other road users, such as passengers and cyclists, that sort of thing?
I can answer that first. Well, I think firstly, we've been very clear in terms of, from the government's perspective, around the priority, which is around economic growth and productivity. We campaigned on the 17 roads of national significance. We're delivering on that commitment to ensure there's a pipeline of major roading projects which help unlock economic growth and productivity across New Zealand. Coalition agreement with New Zealand First makes it very clear there should be less money going into cycleways, and I think New Zealanders are sick and tired of seeing how much money has been going into cycleways in recent years. Speed bumps, as I said, have been infesting our streets while potholes haven't been filled. This National Land Transport Program reflects the government's priorities, which is to fix our roads, build new ones, whilst maintaining it to a higher standard. So yes, there's still funding for public transport. There's a significant boost for public transport. Yes, there's still funding for walking and cycling, but I think it's about rebalancing that in a more appropriate way, and I think that's what the NZTA board has done.
Minister, will you be seeking political consensus on some of these roading projects and public transport projects, so there's not sort of a starting and a stopping of projects if there's a change of government?
Look, I mean, absolutely. I think the reality here is, if you look at a lot of these roads of national significance that we campaigned on and we delivered, I think the last government actually outlined a large number of them in their draft GPS they put out just moments before the last election. The major public transport projects that we're delivering are certainly things which I think the opposition agree with, but ultimately you'd put those questions to the opposition as to what their views are. I'd certainly hope that they would come on board and see the value in actually delivering a pipeline of roading projects and public transport projects which help give people the opportunity to move around New Zealand more quickly and safely, and particularly unlock those key freight routes, which particularly in the Upper North Island, which is what there is a significant investment in here for, as well as unlocking a lot of land for housing. So I think the priorities that we have outlined in our GPS and which are now reflected in LTP are the priorities of New Zealanders, and I encourage the opposition to come on board.
Do you accept, though, that there is a departure from previous governments and their approach specifically towards cycling?
No, I think there's still investment in walking and cycling. There's an activity class for walking and cycling, just like there has been in previous national government policy statements. But what we've said is actually this is money which is paid for by road users. People pay their road user charges and their fuel excise duty, and their expectation is that that funding goes back into building and maintaining that roading network. So yes, there is funding here for walking and cycling. We're going to make sure we keep that in proportion.
But the plan talks again about the rising costs of road maintenance.
Yep.
Can you explain why that is? What's behind the cost?
I don't know if Brett wants to talk to that. I mean, obviously there's been construction material increases across the board, but we've made it very clear we want to get back to a no-frills approach and focus on getting costs under control. And some of that's actually about having a really clear pipeline. Brett.
So Brett's our GGM Transport Services, so infrastructure bit of the business.
Yeah, I can just add to what the Minister says. There's been input costs that have increased, so just the cost of doing business in construction has increased over recent years, and COVID has had a big impact on that. But I think not having sustainable funding over recent years has really impacted our ability to do things in an efficient way and design a pipeline that construction companies can invest in plant and people to get efficiency. So what we're hoping with this new amount of money coming into the maintenance activity classes, contractors can get a pipeline of work into the future. They'll invest in people and growing people, and they'll invest in plant and better ways of doing things. So that's the hope.
So these costs, these increased costs, they will kind of feed through onto the new construction projects as well, right?
Yeah, so there's been general, as everyone knows, there's been general escalation at significant levels through COVID. It's come back in recent years, so that's good. We're getting escalation back under control on our contracting prices, but there was a general uplift over the COVID period, which is in essence locked in. Yep.
Is there a risk that the roads of national significance or roads of regional significance could end up being significantly more expensive than the previous?
We've just got to do the work to price those. We're taking a very much a no-frills approach. We're looking back to basics. What is the core scope that we need to deliver for the outcomes that we're wanting to achieve? We're going to reset the scope on all of these. We'll go through the pricing and work that through. We just haven't done all of that work yet.
So you're not sure you can do it any cheaper?
I hope we can do it cheaper.
Projects like Mill Road, for example, I mean, that seems to be...
Look, I can't comment at this stage until we do the work. I really hope that we can find savings and going back to basics, thinking about the core pieces of work that we need to do to deliver the outcomes that that road particularly needs, along with all the rest of the roads of national significance.
Isn't there a risk this kind of approach leads to more potholes if you're trying to cut costs and so on?
No, not at all. No, exact opposite. So two things. I think the GPS is very clear that there's separate funding for fixing potholes and renewing the asset to the capital investment in RON, so this funding is separated. When it comes to the potholes, we're absolutely putting a greater focus on fixing potholes quickly, but that's not the real thing with the pothole activity class. The real thing is about renewing the asset, and the additional funding allows us to do a lot more of that, a lot more resurfacing, a lot more replacing the old road with new road, which over time will mean that we'll have less potholes and a better asset.
Minister, can you explain how this policy statement will improve travel times on Auckland's southern motorway?
Well, there's the Papakura Drury project, which is currently stage one's just opened recently, actually, which is big choke point has been removed. The next step is to get that completed all the way down to Drury with an interchange, and I understand NZTA is in the process of negotiating the contract on that right now. So unblocking those choke points is a critical part to reducing travel times, and that means increasing the number of lanes on that particular part of the southern corridor. So look, there's a range of things in here which are all about reducing travel times, increasing capacity. And I think, and also, the City Rail Link doubling the amount of rail passenger rail capacity in Auckland will mean all of those people in South Auckland will have far greater travel choices about how they get around Auckland. So this is going to have a huge impact on travel times in Auckland.
How important will congestion charging be with respect to unblocking the southern motorway?
Well, I think that's a tool, and I think we've already announced our policy, which we're bringing legislation to Parliament soon around time of use charging. We see Auckland as being a candidate for that, which we can implement it in, and that's about using price to make sure that people ultimately make those choices, so we can spread that traffic more effectively and more efficiently. So we can have more reliable journey times and help people and freight get around Auckland more efficiently. So it's all about maximising efficiency of the roading network and using price to do that. It's not a revenue tool, it's about maximising efficiency of the network.
Given that congestion charging is in use in any number of countries around the world and is working, why can't it come in sooner here? Why are you taking so long?
Well, I mean, I've been the Minister for 9 months and we've got legislation coming to Parliament end of this year. I think we're working quite quickly on it.
Minister, just back on Brodie's question, it looks like from the budget that the walking and cycling budgets have been halved. Is that fair to those New Zealanders that are walking and cycling and not driving?
Well, we campaigned on building and maintaining the roading network to a standard, and I think many New Zealanders have been driving around our roading network and not seeing it maintained to the standard it should be. They've seen lots of money being spent on cycleways and speed bumps and in-lane bus stops and all sorts of nice-to-haves when the basics actually haven't been looked after appropriately. So this is about back to basics. Road users who pay for the National Land Transport Program, when they're filling up their cars and paying petrol tax or road user charges. They expect the basics to be done brilliantly, and that's the number one priority in this NLTP.
How much is it being spent on speed bumps? Because I mean, a lot of that's done by councils anyways.
I think we've stopped 24 speed bumps on state highways. 24 just on the state highway network. But I think well, they cost about $500,000 each, so that's $12 million. So that's a saving.
Do you mean
but
absolutely,
and well, they are, because they are designed to slow the car down and they effectively cause congestion. But my point there is we're actually not going to be using National Land Transport funds to subsidise councils to put those speed bumps and raised crossings in, which have been infesting our suburbs across the country and are simply adding to congestion. We've got main arterial roads which have had speed bumps put on them, which is just ridiculous, and we're not going to continue funding them.
Some of them are put in at the behest of local communities, aren't they? I mean, there's been on reporting around schools in Great North Road in Auckland actually wanting them so kids feel safer.
Well, if you look at the Great North Road project, I think there's a lot of community frustration about that particular project.
But it was a lot of community support. Right?
What I would say, though, is if councils wish to continue to make those investments, they can do so, but they will not have the National Land Transport Fund subsidising those decisions.
Do you know how much money is being saved by not paying for raised speed crossings or speed bumps?
Well, I've asked for a list. It's a lot of raised crossings. I don't know if we've got an exact number on that, but it's a lot. It's a long list.
When you talk about back to basics and no frills, can you just explain what that means?
Well, effectively, when people fill up their cars and pay fuel excise duty, or they pay road user charges if they've got a diesel vehicle, the number one priority is making sure that we're actually fixing the road, so building and maintaining the roading network. The National Land Transport Fund is paid for by road users, and the expectation is that that fund is used to benefit and make sure that the road is up to the standard that they expect it to be. So that's why we're prioritising a significant 91% increase in funding for pothole prevention on our state highway network, a 50% increase in funding for local road pothole prevention. That's why we're bringing back the Roads of National Significance program, which is about having a pipeline of infrastructure projects which unlock economic growth and productivity, reduce travel time, and help people and freight get where they want to go more quickly and safely. So that's about what the basics are. That's what's prioritised in this National Land Transport program.
Can we just get updates on two projects? One's on this list, I think one's in the map. What does this mean for Mill Road and the Brynderwyns alternative route?
Brett, do you want to cover that?
Yeah, sure. So both of those are roads of national significance. Mill Road, we have put in what we call the first wave of the roads of national significance, so we've broken them up into waves, and we're investigating that now. That's got two bits. We're going to look for early wins, so there might be some improvements we can make along Mill Road to get that functioning better now, intersection upgrades and the likes, but also at the same time looking at the long-term solution, which was the solution that's been talked about for some time, which is about the rebuild of the entire length of Mill Road and tying it back into State Highway 1. When it goes regards to the Brynderwyns, we've started that project also. It's also in the Wave 1 projects. We've started market sounding on that, so we've just been engaging with the industry on potential options for delivery of what is the Warkworth to Whangarei corridor, including the Brynderwyns bypass. We're looking at accelerating that as a potential public-private partnership, and that will be delivered in stages, including the Brynderwyns, which we've started work on.
Timeline on that?
That will be done over some time, but we're wanting to at least get the first contract awarded in the next couple of years so that we can make a start on that project.
How many of these roads of national regional significance are you looking at making public-private partnerships?
You can talk about first. And I guess the expectation that we've set out in the GPS is that the NZTA board should be considering all types of funding and financing for all of those major projects. So in terms of, whether it's Mill Road, whether it's the road to Whangarei, our expectation is that the board considers those funding and financing options for all of them.
Are you confident all of those roads of national significance can be delivered within days?
Yes. I mean, ultimately there's a work, as Brett has said, around identifying the scope, making sure it's no frills, and going through that process. There's a lot of work that the agency's got underway at the moment to ensure that. And I'll just give an example as to why that's important. And if you look at the Penlink Road in Auckland, which was started under the last government, it's had a 2-year delay in it due to the fact the last government said we want to prioritise reducing construction emissions, which led NZTA to putting in a design of a bridge which had never been built in New Zealand before, which has meant that it's taking longer for the construction of that bridge as it's not been used before. We want standardisation of structures. We want standardisation of design. We're so good in New Zealand at making sure we design everything uniquely. Well, we're a small country. We need to have standardisation of design, standardisation of bridges and structures, so we can actually cut costs, get efficiencies, and build things cheaper and faster.
Sorry, just quickly, do you have a cost on your road yet?
Brett? No. We haven't got to that stage. Great. Hey, well, thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate you coming here, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.